In this lab, I'm going to show you how to attack a Windows Remote Desktop using a well-known password cracking tool called Hydra. Let's jump straight in. For those of you that don't know, Remote Desktop Protocol, or RDP for short, is a well-known tool and protocol used by network administrators to remotely manage Windows PCs and servers. It's in fact the most popular way to access a Windows server, and that's why it's so important that we have this properly set up to prevent hackers from targeting poorly set up configurations of this protocol. For this lab, I've set up a Windows 10 machine, and as you can see on my screen, I've enabled the remote desktop. And just to show you, the IP address for this is 10.200.200.10. We'll use this later when we're doing the attack. So moving over to our Kali machine, we're first going to be using Nmap to scan this vulnerable Windows 10 machine that I set up, so that you can see that the port that RDP is using, which is 3389, is in fact accessible. So to start, we'll use the Nmap command, and we'll be using the -ss parameter, which is a SYN scan, followed by a -pn parameter. This basically tells Nmap that even if the machine is unable to be pinged, which is in the case of this Windows machine, not allowing any ICMP traffic, that it must go ahead and scan the machine anyway. And then the final parameter that I've used is -sv. This tells Nmap to attempt to scan for the version of the protocols that it detects. And then I've put the IP address in there, which is the IP address of the vulnerable Windows 10 machine. Once you're ready to go, hit enter. And Nmap will start doing the scan. This will take a minute or two. So you'll see Nmap has returned the results, and we'll see that port 3389 is in fact open for Microsoft Terminal Services. This is just the old name that they used to call RDP in the past. And we'll see that this is in fact a Windows machine. So now that we've confirmed that RDP is in fact available for us to exploit, we'll head over to a new terminal and we'll run Hydra. So the command for Hydra is Hydra and then a -l parameter, which allows us to tell Hydra which username list we want to use. This is just a list that I've created with a couple of random usernames for the purpose of this demo. We will then follow by typing -p, which is the password list. Once again, it's just a short list of passwords that I've created for this demo, and the IP address of the vulnerable Windows 10 machine. And then right at the end, we've got RDP, which is the protocol that we want to exploit. In the real world, an attacker will use a much more comprehensive list than what I've put together. So this scan will take considerably longer to run. So when you're ready, we're going to hit enter. And you're going to see Hydra is going to start its scan. And after a relatively short amount of time in this case, Hydra has managed to obtain the login. Username is Kali and the password is Kali. So just to show you guys that username and password works, I've opened up another terminal and I'm going to use Remmina, my remote desktop client, my preferred remote desktop client in Kali. And we're going to type in the IP address of that machine, 10.200.200.10. And we're going to use Kali as the username and Kali as the password. We're going to hit OK. And you'll see that the remote desktop session in fact loaded. Just scale this correctly. And now we have full access to this machine. So one of the most obvious ways to mitigate against this attack is to always make sure that you have strong passwords put in place that are not easy to brute force attack and that are not part of any lists, and to also make sure that you have random hard to guess usernames. Another way that we can prevent this from happening is by changing a few settings on our Windows machine. So what you'll need to do is search for the local security policy settings, and you'll open it up. And once you get inside there, you can go into the account lockout policy, and you'll see by default on all Windows machines, the account lockout threshold is set to 0. So it says 0 invalid login attempts. If you open that up and you click on explain, there's a little bit of reading there for you. The default is always 0, as I just said. And you can set this value to between 0 and 999 failed login attempts. If you set the value to 0, the account will never be locked out. So what we can do in this case is we can adjust this value and we can set it to 3 invalid login attempts. So basically what that means is that after the third attempt, the account will automatically be locked out, which then renders the brute force attack that Hydra does useless. So we can click apply, and then Windows will suggest to us additional values that need to be set. So in this case, it recommends that the account lockout duration is set to 30 minutes, and the reset account lockout counter after is also set to 30 minutes. We'll click OK, and we'll click OK. From there, you'll see the settings have now applied. So what this does is, after the third invalid attempt, the account will be automatically locked for 30 minutes. So to show you the lockout policy in place and how it works, we'll run that same attack. So we'll use the Hydra command again, as we did earlier, and we'll hit enter. And you'll see there were no valid passwords found. So back to the Windows 10 machine, we can go and have a look at that user account. So if we type in MMC, we can open up the MMC snap-on tools, and we can add a snap-in and use local users and groups. We can add that for this local computer. We can click OK. And then we can go see our Kali user. We double click on it, you can see the account is in fact locked out. And this account now will be locked out for 30 minutes. So this now renders the brute force attack done by Hydra useless. Other ways that we can also protect our RDP sessions is we could consider blocking the port using a firewall and only allowing whitelisted IP addresses to be able to access the RDP session. Another way that we can do that is we could once again block all of our RDP ports, and we could use a VPN to access a private network that has access to the RDP session. This is especially useful if you're managing remote cloud-based Windows Server instances on the internet. So to wrap this video up, we've looked at RDP, how we can use a tool like Hydra to brute force attack a vulnerable set of passwords. And we've looked at ways of how we can mitigate against this type of attack by using stronger usernames and passwords, an account lockout policy, and then also briefly mentioned using firewalls to prevent or to restrict access to the RDP port on Windows machines. If you've liked this video, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe. It'll be greatly appreciated and help me to get this channel off the ground. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks again, and cheers for now.